It's one of those questions that can really shake you. If God is all good and all powerful, why is there so much suffering? Why does he allow sin? In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the classic theological answer to one of the most profound questions out there. I mean, that's the real head scratcher, isn't it? It's a massive paradox. If God is good, why is there evil? And if he knows everything, why would he go through with creating us, knowing full well we'd mess up and end up in a world of hurt? Let's try to break this down piece by piece. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by getting a handle on God's nature, then take a hard look at the human condition. After that, we'll get into the really core ideas of providence and redemption, which are key to the whole answer. And then we'll wrap up by looking at the mystery that still remains at the heart of it all. Okay, so before we can even get to the answer, we have to lay some groundwork. The whole paradox really hinges on three specific ideas about what God is like. So let's explore those first. First up is omniscience. Now, this isn't just about God being a cosmic fortune teller who can predict the future. The sources describe it very differently. It's more like an eternal, unchanging present. For God, all of time, past, present, and future, is happening all at once. So he doesn't predict what we'll do. From his perspective, he just knows it, because it's always right there in front of him. Next, we have goodness. And look, we're not just talking about being nice. The sources describe God's goodness as a kind of perfection. It absolutely includes boundless mercy, but it's a goodness that has no weakness in it. And it can exist perfectly alongside another really important attribute, justice. And that brings us to the third piece of this puzzle, justice. According to the sources we're looking at, divine justice is pretty straightforward. An offense needs a consequence. Sin is seen as an offense against a supreme legislator, so it has to be met with a penalty. And this isn't a contradiction to his goodness. It's actually seen as a necessary part of a perfect moral universe. This quote right here really ties it all together perfectly. God knowing about sin isn't just him passively watching a movie of the future. It's an immediate, present knowledge because of his eternal nature. And that's a really crucial distinction we have to keep in mind as we move forward. All right, so we've looked at one side of the coin, a God who is all-knowing, perfectly good, and perfectly just. So now, let's flip it over and look at the other side of the paradox, us, humanity. And this is where things get really wild. On one hand, we're described as the absolute pinnacle of creation, the noblest of all creatures. But on the other hand, just look at our reality. So often it's just filled with suffering and misery. This is the tragic gap that needs an explanation. So why? Why would God create this incredibly noble being knowing it would fall into such a mess? So how in the world does theology try to resolve this? Well, the absolute key is this concept called divine providence. It's the idea that God's plan is so vast, so perfect, that it can actually incorporate even our free and, sinful choices without missing a beat. And this is a really crucial point. The fall of humanity isn't seen as plan A gone wrong. It's not a surprise to God, and it's definitely not a defeat. Instead, it's something he permits to happen, all within a much grander plan that he is always, always in control of. And here's the reason why it's permitted. This quote gets right to the absolute heart of the argument. The idea is that God's power is so complete, so total, that he can take the evil that we create with our free will and use it to bring about an even greater good, a good that, unbelievably, wouldn't have existed without the evil in the first place. The logic here really unfolds in three simple steps. First, God gives us free will, which allows sin to enter the picture. Second, that sin creates this huge problem, an infinite forfeit that needs a divine-level solution. And third, and this is the amazing part, that very solution, redemption, becomes the greater good. So what is this greater good? What could possibly be so good that it could justify the existence of all the sin and suffering in the world? Well, according to the sources, the greater good is the act of redemption itself. Think about it like this. The problem is framed as an infinite forfeit. Basically, a sin against an infinite God is seen as an offense of infinite weight. So the solution has to be infinite too. The sources argue that this solution is the sacrifice of Christ, an act of divine love so profound that it doesn't just fix the problem of sin, it actually outweighs the tragedy of the fall itself. And this, right here, brings us all the way back to that huge question: what is our purpose? In this whole framework, our purpose isn't just to be happy little creatures in some simple paradise. No, it's something way more profound. We are invited to freely choose to be part of this incredible story of redemption. Our destiny is to accept this divine solution and find an eternal happiness that's been forged in love, sacrifice, and mercy. So we've walked through the logic of it all: God's attributes, humanity's fall, and the incredible plan of redemption. But, and this is a big but, the sources are also very clear that this logical framework can only take us so far. All right, so let's just do a quick recap of the main takeaways. God knows about our choices, but He doesn't cause them. He permits evil because He gave us free will. His incredible providence then works to bring about the greater good of redemption from that evil, and our purpose is to freely join in that plan. But ultimately, fully grasping all of this, well, that's a matter of faith. I think this final quote from the sources just captures the whole thing perfectly. While we can build a logical framework to help us understand, it suggests that the full picture, the why of it all, has to be seen through the lens of faith. Reason takes you to the edge, and then you just have to bow down and adore. And so we're left with this really powerful thought to chew on. What if the goal of creation was never a world without struggle? What if the whole point was to create a universe where love isn't just a given, but something that is freely chosen, tested, and ultimately made triumphant through an incredible act of divine mercy? A purpose far grander and more complex than we ever could have imagined.